this guy that's reminiscing about, back in the day, I came up with a slogan, have a Coke and a grin. He almost came up with a zinger. There's nothing sadder than almost. And Mark Richt almost won back-to-back titles for Georgia in 2011 and 2012. He almost did, but he didn't. Tonight we're going to talk about the king of almost, Mark Richt and the Georgia Bulldogs. You see, Mark Richt came onto the scene at Georgia in 2001. In 2002, had a really great team that finished with one loss. That one loss happened to be to Florida, and it kept Georgia from becoming a part of the national title picture, but it was a very special team. A team that formed a deep loyalty. The Georgia fans were united. They found their coach, and they did improve. 10 wins became the common theme. In 2005, they won an SEC. 2007 was one of the better teams, and it also lost a needless game and had to settle for playing Hawaii in their bowl game, and they blew them out. And they finished third in the country. That team could have been a championship team, but 2011, 2012 were probably two of Mark Richt's best teams. And we're going to talk about that particular 2012 team that was the closest Mark Richt ever came to having a national championship.
We welcome you to the SEC Championship game on CBS, presented by Dr. Pepper. Let's take a look at what's at stake. Here's the BCS Top 10. Notre Dame will play in Miami for the title. And for the first time, there's no vote necessary. This has become a de facto semifinal game, as either Alabama or Georgia will advance to take on the Fighting Irish. Good afternoon, everybody. Vern Lundquist along with Gary Danielson. Were these two teams to look in the mirror, they'd probably see each other. Whether it's style of play, season record, so many similarities.
They really are. They're built on toughness, they're built on defense, and they're built behind quarterbacks, but they like to run the ball. Look at this stat. The two tandems of the running backs kind of typifies how close these teams are built. In similarities, look at that. The two from Alabama, the two from Georgia, almost.
So you can tell by that intro that Georgia was not a flash in the pan. They had been approaching the level of Alabama year by year and inching along. And one of the key stats that backed that up was Georgia and Alabama at this time, and had been true for the past 5 years, was a clear leader for top draft in the NFL in a starting position. Mark Richt's teams always played with passion. Passionate today than Richard Ogletree, the architect of the Georgia defense. Todd Grantham's style depended on guys like Ogletree to make the right decision, working somewhat together, and sometimes it was different. The Todd Grantham defense required outstanding performance, and they certainly got that tonight. And dedication were never a problem for Mark Richt's team. Passion, however, discipline was the weak link.
They have to come through on the offensive line.
Well, if Georgia's to win and they're a slight underdog, what segment of their team needs to really play well?
I think you know this. Alabama likes to run the ball. That means Georgia and those great defensive linemen and linebackers must stop the run first. Because if they do, that means their All-American Jarvis Jones can get involved in this football game. Todd Grantham, their defensive coordinator, will line him up all
this every Saturday afternoon for 3 months. And almost inevitably, we wind up talking about quarterbacks. Well, let's do it again.
You can't hide if you're a quarterback, especially if you want to be a champion quarterback. These two guys, A.J. McCarron, Aaron Murray, they know each other. They know and respect what each other has to do. A.J. McCarron's coming off a national championship. Aaron Murray, he had a couple nightmares, a few ghosts, but he's coming on hot later in the year. But you know, Vern, when you watch Aaron Murray right there and the whole Georgia football team, I don't think it's going to be the extraordinary plays. Just the ordinary plays might be good enough.
After a defensive struggle in the first half, with Alabama kicking a field goal on the final play for a 10-7 lead. The last 2 quarters were nothing but run and gun. The Bulldogs took the second half kickoff and marched right down the field for the go-ahead touchdown. And Gurley ran it 7 times, capped by a leg-churning 3-yard drive up the middle to make it 14-10. Alabama looked like it was about to answer, holding the ball for more than 5.5 minutes before the drive stalled. Cade Foster came on for a 50-yard field goal attempt, but his low kick was swatted down by Cornelius Washington. Ogletree scooped up the bouncing ball in stride and returned it 55 yards for a touchdown. And suddenly the Bulldogs led 21-10. But the Tide wasn't about to go away that easy. Yeldon broke off a 31-yard run, and Swan was called for interference on a throw down the middle, and Yeldon powered in from the 10. He ran it again for a 2-point conversion, pulling Alabama to 21-18. And once again, a crucial pass interference play greatly assisted Alabama in the championship game. Georgia went 3 and out, and the ground assault resumed. Lacey barreled over right guard for 32 yards, and Yeldon got it down to the 1. Lacey returned for the first snap of the fourth period, bowling over to put Alabama ahead 25-21. Tide's momentum lasted about 2 minutes. Murray found King down the middle for a 45-yard completion, and Gurley finished off the lightning-quick possession with a 10-yard touchdown run up the middle, putting Georgia back on top 28-25. But Alabama knows a thing about comeback. With 3 minutes and 15 seconds remaining, A.J. McCarron threw a 45-yard touchdown pass to Amari Cooper. And number 2, Alabama had regained the lead, 32-28. After an apparent game-clinching interception by Alabama was overturned on a video review, Georgia's Aaron Murray completed a 15-yard pass to Arthur Lynch, a 23-yarder to Tavares King, and a 26-yarder to Lynch, who was hauled down at the Alabama 8 as the clock continued to run. The Bulldogs, 11-2 for the year, were out of timeouts. Instead of spiking the ball and gathering themselves, the Bulldogs snapped the ball with 9 seconds to go, and Murray attempted a pass into the corner, but it was deflected at the line and ended up in the arms of Chris Conley out in the flats. Surprised to get the ball, he slipped down at the 5, and Georgia could not get off another play. Mark Richt said the offense had the play it wanted at the end, but Alabama ruined it by tipping the pass. If it had fallen incomplete instead of going to Conley, who instinctively caught it, the Bulldogs likely would have at least one more play, maybe 2. Instead, they were done. And so was Mark Richt, as he never had a team approaching this talent level. His last 3 years at Georgia were kind of a spiraling mess in a way, and Mark Richt was replaced by Kirby Smart in 2016. An interesting side note is that had Mark Richt won this title, it's very likely that Kirby Smart would never have been the Georgia coach. But that's another story for another day. Thanks for joining us on a wonderful Rewind SEC championship game where Georgia almost won their only title with Mark Richt. And they really deserved it that day. Played really well. It's also a shame they couldn't make the playoff. It's only 2 teams got in. Another one of Mark Richt's teams that were good enough to win the title. They just almost did.